right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Independent Podcast. I'm your host, Fernando Garcia, and I'm here with Jeff Belle, who is a candidate for United States Congress here in San Diego in District 52. Jeff, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Fernando. Hey, it's great to be here. It's always good to be here.
Awesome. Jeff,
It is always good. Yes, thank you very much for
yes.
having me.
Wanted to start off. A lot of people love to talk politics. A lot of people are very involved and have their opinions, but very few people actually make the decision to put their name in the hat and go through the whole process of actually running for
Yes, sir.
for any position, let
hmm
alone Congress. So, what drives you? What are some of the things that drive you to make this decision? Tell me how you got from where you grew up to how you got to where you are now and why
Sure.
you're running.
Well, as I would say, prior to beginning, this is not my first rodeo, but hey,
Mhm.
I'm still looking for 8 seconds. Nonetheless, what that means is that I've been in office before, but not against congressional at the county level in the Bay Area,
Okay, got it.
and I grew up in Oklahoma.
Okay,
And that's why I got my opportunity to go and work in Washington, D.C. for a U.S. Senator. And I was 28 years old at the time. Really learned the game, and I also went to school there. So I learned a lot about the political process and about politics and about helping individuals. Mainly, we helped a lot of small businesses, tribal governments. Oklahoma has a large number of tribes in the country, so very familiar with tribal affairs and healthcare affairs. That was my main forte. So that's how I got started. And
got it. Well, tell me, what are some of the things that, as a child, that maybe were the things that motivated you at a very young age that made you want to one day run for political office?
well, two things. One, I did very well. I'm into this on interview recently, and I was kind of I hadn't thought about that far in a while. And during high school, I wanted to become a physician, and I entered this health occupational student organization statewide. This was in Oklahoma, and I actually did very well in this career exploration. But one areas I excelled, I was surprised statewide, was in a prepared speech. I actually got an award for a prepared speech, and it was about public service, mainly at the time in healthcare, because that was the only area that I really had known a lot about was healthcare. I grew up. I mean, when I was 18, right out of high school, I was working as a respiratory therapy tech. So, right, I mean, that's all I knew was healthcare,
Yeah.
for a long time until obviously I transitioned in Washington, D.C. But yeah, and then in my family, there were some struggles and needs from, I guess you'd say, Southwest, South in Oklahoma, and originally from Louisiana. So there's a lot of issues that you see that are ugly and need to be dealt with, in a professional way, in a
Yeah.
proper way, But as a conservative, gosh, over 40 years now, I had a real burning desire to make a significant impact in the lives of individuals, not my life, but use my life. I'm a Christian and allow God to use my life to be a blessing to others, a significant impact in systems and in
Mm,
people and in processes.
gotcha. That's amazing. Well, and tell me a little bit about the district that you're running in, District 52.
Well,
If I'm an outsider, tell me what
mhm.
areas does that entail and
well,
um, how that
sure,
works?
sure. It's considered South Bay San Diego. It's literally anywhere south of, I mean, downtown, really south of downtown San Diego. It's
Okay.
but not east. I mean, the farthest east is El Cajon, all the way back west, to Imperial Beach, all the way down to the border.
Yeah.
So and then it goes a little bit toward Mexico, Tecate, just a little bit out toward Imperial Valley, but mostly the South Bay. That the main cities are Chula Vista, Imperial Beach, Pacific, Paradise Hills. You have probably Barrow Logan, one of my
Okay.
favorite areas to hang out. Actually, get a good event there this weekend. And you have another area is National City, individuals there. And so you have all these different, and then we have a little bit of City Heights, a small amount of Lemon Grove. And so it gives you a chance. It's very diverse. So that's the good
Hmm.
thing about it. Fernando is very diverse, and diversity needs something a little bit different. Now, when I ran in the Bay Area, look, it wasn't nearly as diverse as it is in Southern Cal
Hmm.
and South Bay. I mean, I ran it in Contra Costa County. That's kind of mainly a majority white individuals with a few individuals of color. Yeah. But here, this is very diverse in South Bay. And the political landscape, is diverse as well, but more, heavily towards the Democratic side. Whereas the Bay Area is also heavy, more heavy than the Democratic side.
Yeah.
But they're totally different. But what I've noticed, though, what it got me involved were the growing concerns and the lack of affordability of the average individuals. I mean, somebody goes to school, get a degree, and apply for a home, can't get a home, can't get a job, and these are things that the American dream is fleeting. I mean, so I said,
Right.
what's wrong with that? So we have some broken systems.
Yeah.
So I told you I want to make a significant impact within the system. And not just necessarily the state of California, but the whole political process. I have a master's in public administration, political science. I understand the process very academically and professionally. And I've worked in D.C. I've worked in Oklahoma in legislation in terms of the lobbies. I've worked in the Bay Area, elected officials. So I really understand how this process works, and then how to use it for the betterment of individuals. It's not for individual, for the. I don't. I'm against career politicians. I'm for term limits. I
Hmm.
think if you can't get anything done within a limited time, and you don't need, you become part of the problem.
Right.
And one of the things I wanted to do is really, sure, term limits has to be implemented. It
Hmm.
has to. That's what happened in California. We were one of the first states. I mean, and the person that kind of encouraged term limits was a friend of mine, Willie Brown. He was a speaker, I think, for seven years in a row, and supported by the Republicans and Democrats, and they couldn't get him
Yeah.
out of office. So term limits came about. So, but anyway, and then this, but really, Fernando, looking at the faces of the families struggling. I mean, black, brown, white, yellow, just
Hmm.
watching them struggle to make ends meet. I'm sure, really, watching them struggle and watching them get despaired and despondent because they lack opportunity. They don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. Okay,
Yeah.
and I'm not saying there's anybody to blame. There's a system in which include individuals that make up that system that are pulling the strings, and I know exactly how they work. I mean, I've been there on the inside. I've been there, done that, and got the T-shirt.
That kind of create some of the some certain inequality or lack of opportunities. What are
Yeah.
things that you feel you could implement or change so that there is more opportunity for people?
Well, there are several, but there are five that are very pressing. And for example, a lot of individuals say they can do this, do this. I know what a congressman can and can't do. I've been there, done. I mean, inside the system. One of our major roles is immigration. That's for Congress, not for the president. It's for Congress, but it's been avoided for a long time.
Hmm.
Now that the borders are quite secure, I think it's time to look at immigration and do some real immigration reforms. I really do. That's
Yeah.
a serious issue. Now, my proposal, and I'm a conservative, my proposal
Hmm.
is this. I have a first priority status immigration reform act legislation I've written. I used to write legislation for a living, so I already know what it's required. So,
Yeah.
and what it calls for is individuals who've been here in the U.S. illegal, who are from Mexico and the Philippines for 7 years, and who are employed in construction in four areas: construction, healthcare, and farm agriculture, and the last one is hospitality. If you're employed in those areas, you've been here for 7 years, you've not committed any crime, then you become eligible under my legislation for a first priority status. Now, what that does, Fernando, this is good. What that does, you don't skip, it allows you to get in line, meaning to register with ICE, and no one's deported among that group. Once you meet the criteria, you register, you get it calls first priority, and meaning that then ICE Customs has to process you within 45 to 90 days. Then you get a temporary green card for 1 year to continue working, continue living here. After that 1 year, there's no crime. The next phase to become eligible for a U.S. citizen. That's called a first priority status immigration legislation. Now, that particular act, if passed, when passed rather, only applies to those who are citizens or originally from Mexico and the Philippines. No other country. First priority legislation. That's real change, Fernando. That's real change, Fernando. That's real change. So what that means, individuals who are gainfully employed and been here for 7 years and working, they come out of their shadows. They register with ICE. Nobody's deported. That's part of the legislation. Okay. Then they are processed and they get in line. I mean, but they jump the line. It's called first priority status. It's called first priority status. I mean, they're to be processed first.
Yeah.
Okay. And within 45 to 90 days.
Curious, is there I'm sorry. I was going to say, it's curious. Is there a reason why people from Mexico and the Philippines would get priority status?
Yeah, well, because number one, the majority of individuals who work in those particular four sectors are from Mexico and the Philippines. We've done the research. That's without a doubt. Yeah, that's why. Not Venezuela, not Brazil, not Africa. No. Not Canada. No. Strictly, this is a starting point. You got to start somewhere, Fernando, in politics.
Gotcha.
We can always expand that later, but that's our starting point. And it adversely affects my district. And but it's a bill, so it's going to affect all the United States, anywhere. But citizens from Somalia and other places, they're prohibited. They can go through the asylum process. Then that's still as is. But the new first priority status immigration will allow those individuals who can validate. Obviously, there's a validation process. We verify everything. But the 7-year requirement means someone can't just run and start it. No. You have to have been here 7 years prior to applying to register. 7 years verifiable and 7 years of employment. So that's a tough criteria. It's not easy.
Yeah.
Okay, 7 years without any crime. Then why? My question to you or to my opposition are why wouldn't you do that? That is the humane, the dignity thing to do. That's a starting point. It's a starting point. But it's action. There's a lot of like my opponents. They have great intentions, right? Well, we'd like to see all. No. What's the difference between good intentions and getting things done? You know what it's called?
Right.
In my Fernando, action, intentional action. That's the first step in intentional action, to seeing traction, movement in that progress. Okay, this is not the president's job. It's Congress' job to do this. This is what we do. As members of Congress, it's our responsibility to write legislation. We're the lawmakers. The president isn't.
Yeah. In reference to that, what are your thoughts on how, ICE is how we're handling it right now, immigration right now, on a federal level?
Well, overall, they're doing a great job. I mean, overall, Fernando, there's always going to be issues. I mean, nothing's perfect. Even the husband and wife disagree on things. there's things that happen. I mean, I think ICE has to be better prepared, better trained. You know, it's like in a lot of police, law enforcement officers need to be trained, much better trained. Then we need to have some degree of human dignity about, oh, listen, in our Constitution, you know, it's very critical. You know, I mean, it's very critical when you look at all human beings, regardless of where you're from, are created equal. That's the first thing.
Yeah.
Equal is not applied equally, but we're created equal in God's sight. So when we were doing the research to write that legislation, I went back and looked at some biblical practices, and in Deuteronomy in the Old Testament, I mean, there were a time. Oh, in addition to what I mentioned earlier, in addition to the first Protestant, there would be a fee imposed. Now, you wouldn't do this. There's a cost always, administrative cost.
Mm-hmm.
So the cost is a nominal, fair cost. This is all biblical practices too. It's a fair cost. And it's only $500 for a family, husband and wife. Okay, $300 one individual. For a family of four, $750. That's fair. That's fair. It's a nominal fee. Nominal fee. It's not $4,000 or $5,000 and waiting 5 years. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
See, the bureaucrats tend to control. I know what the bureaucrats try to do. They try to control things, and so we can go to the moon and back in a couple of days, and you can't process people. You know,
right.
we get additional agents, not IRS agents like the Biden administration wanted. We get agents at the border to process individuals. After we've done the verification can take place in less than 24 hours. You can verify all that in 24 hours nowadays.
Yeah.
You really can. My staff looked at
it. And now there's a lot of people that would, do you think that immigrants many times are, when we talk about sometimes what's challenging to the country and some of the things that make things difficult, you know, a lot of people feel like, hey, we're focusing a lot on immigrants who come to the country as opposed to maybe some of the big corporations or the elites that kind of
be held accountable.
You know,
yes.
held accountable, right? And do you
agree.
think that's at times that's the case?
Yes, that's my second. Yes, I didn't finish the statement. That the second to that is that like any legislation, there's a penalty there. Number one, there's a penalty for the applicants. There's also a penalty for the companies or corporations. See, sometimes it's not. The problem is there's a penalty today, but it's not enforced. Yeah. So we have to ensure that law enforcement enforce the penalties fairly. Okay, but there are provisions on every piece of legislation, especially when it involves international affairs, international affairs, or internal affairs or border security.
And one of the other things that I know that's a really big topic on people's minds is really how big money has influenced our elections and influenced politics in general.
Oh, wow. You don't want to get me started on that one. It has.
So what are the big things that's a big hot topic? Or I wouldn't say unfortunately, it's not a big hot topic for a lot of politicians. But the fact that we have, you know, dark money that comes into
it's out of control.
Our system,
that's an issue.
Do you think that that's something that needs to be challenged by Congress in terms of allowing corporations to fund and campaigns really as much as they want? So in essence, with Citizens United, are you in favor of getting rid of Citizens United?
Definitely. I think number one, corporations are prohibited, but they always find loopholes in the law in doing that. But the dark money, definitely. But more disclosure, Fernando, on who funds political ads and PACs.
Yeah.
We need more disclosure on it, especially online ads.
Mm-hmm.
That we need more disclosure. FEC can do this. Yeah. The 5 guys on FEC, they can actually do this. They can write the rules and regs to do this.
Yeah,
okay?
You know,
because Congress. We can do. Well, the McCain bill. There's a couple of bills that's been out regarding, and I don't want to get into that, but that's number one in terms of more disclosure. Number two is the limited on undisclosed dark money. That's a big issue.
Mm-hmm.
spending by outside groups. That's a big issue. But with the internet now, it's very. I mean, it's very. I mean, it's so elusive. It can be so elusive now.
Mm-hmm.
Individuals are very. I mean, matter of fact, on my campaign, I have someone who owns a super PAC now on my campaign, but who's associated with me.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, someone can write a check for $1 million.
Yeah.
I mean, and I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm saying it has to be some degree of accountability. And you have to be, and then another thing, in terms of, I think that the state also plays a major role, especially California. The fees it costs, you know how much it costs to run for a judicial office, a Superior Court judge?
For
$18,000.
Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know it was that much for a
Yeah,
judge.
no. 18. No,
Yeah.
I've talked to him.
Yeah.
18,000. Is that you think the average person couldn't make it? You see what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
Then for U.S. Congress, it's almost $2,000.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not counting the 6,000, so it's 8,000 total. With the, it's crazy. So what I'm saying is, it's all about the money. It starts at the state and it's worse at the federal. But both there needs to be some reform. The state I can't do anything about, but the feds I will be involved in making some changes there. Yes, another issue is stronger enforcement, and as relates to the auditing rules for campaign spending. See, that they're not enforced.
Yeah.
They find certain things, then it takes 5 years. They spend it and go to court. And, it's too much. We got to expedite that process. Expedite the process for them. The enforcement is a big issue. A lot of good laws on the books, Fernando, but they're not enforced. Because enforcement, again, I hate to say this, it's also political driven.
Yeah.
Especially party wise. See, that's why I don't run. I am a conservative, but guess what? I do what's best, and I've heard this come from one of the top Democrats in San Francisco. One of the news, I think it was NBC, one of the agencies asked media group asked a prominent Democrat, why would you support someone who's a Belle, who's a Republican Trump supporter? This is back in 2016. You know what he said?
What's
he
that?
said, because Belle has the courage to do what's right for the people. That's why I support him. Now, this is from a Democrat.
Yeah.
He has the courage to do what's right. The courage. Most people don't have the courage to do what's right for the people. Most people don't do it. They have remember we talked about, they have good intentions, but they won't take the action to do it. I'm taking action on his immigration reform. That's action. When you say, Fernando, when you say it's action, that's the first step. I'm not saying it's a panacea, but it's the first step, in my opinion, in the right direction to reforming and from a human dignity and an equity standpoint. That's all I'm saying. It's a step in the right direction. And start with Mexico and the Philippines. Because number one, it adversely affects my district, number one. And number two is Mexico is adversely affected throughout the entire country.
Mm-hmm.
And you look at the border walls, most of us it's against Mexico, right? Mm-hmm. So this way, we want to become a partnership. We want a partnership like San Diego, for example. We want a partnership with South Bay, particularly with Tijuana. We want to work with them. We want to help them fix the Tijuana River crisis. I mean, my proposal calls for, we keep putting Band-Aids on it. You know how you fix that, Fernando? It's very simple.
How's that?
Well, it's not simple. It's a 3-step process. And I'm writing it today on another program. Number one, there are 6 entities that are involved in terms of monitoring the international affairs between the U.S. and Mexico as relates to the issue, sewer crisis. But in order to make it a permanent solution, the U.S. is going to have to loan. We loan money to countries all the time. Mm-hmm. To loan Tijuana about $7 to $9 billion over a time period. Okay.
Yeah.
Wait, that's the first step. The second, specifically to be used for sewer system infrastructure. What happened? Tijuana was originally this infrastructure built for 250,000 individuals. There are over 2 million people there today.
Yeah.
So to sustain this. So we need to fix all the update, replace basically all the fractured, broken sewer system there in Tijuana. I would propose that the Corps of Engineers under U.S. jurisdiction will work alongside Tijuana contractors and Tijuana government officials and up, and repair and fix their sewer system. It can be fixed, but they need money. They have the will, and they need some oversight and guidance by the Corps of Engineers, not San Diego, not because then you got issues with lack of, accountability, corruption, all those things get involved. Yeah. But if you get the U.S. or Corps of Engineers involved, who are experts in this, and then you learn and work with them, then the second phase of that is to upgrade on the Otay Mesa side and the Tijuana Imperial Beach side, upgrade all the pump station, and fix all the pipes there. I mean, it can be solved. We keep putting Band-Aids, but the major issue is Tijuana. So we have to loan that we've loaned companies money for years, starting with the Marshall Plan. Talking about the Marshall Plan after World War II, billions of dollars, and this would take less than $7 billion. Probably not that much.
Now, one of the
step in the right direction. See, I'm about fixing problems. If we got a lot of issues, we need to fix. And then I know, as a former insider in D.C., that can be done. It can be done. Nothing will stop that.
That's perfect. Now, one of the big issues that are really on everybody's mind right now is the war going on in Iran right now. I mean, what are your thoughts on? Was it the right move to do? Do we need to get out? Should Congress put a vote on it and stop the war and bring everybody? What are your thoughts on that?
We're way down the road to stop anything. Number one, Iran has been threatening and bullying the U.S. and Israel and other countries for 47 years. Our president did the right thing. You have to listen. You have to meet that type of so-called enemy opponent with aggression, with strength. They don't listen to compromise. It doesn't work at that level. The only thing they respect is strength. You come there like the president did, they will listen. They'll listen. Now, my only concern right now, there are twofold. Number one, if we can get some type of time limit, because you don't want to draw this out, for another year or so. I don't think he will. I think this whole thing will be over by the end of May. That's my own prediction. I'm not an expert in geopolitical affairs, especially when it comes to war. I am not. But I do understand political affairs very well. And number two, and I like to see a lot more transparency. And I know the president is briefing the House and Senate, usually Foreign Affairs Committee members and the leaders, majority, and on both sides, they're being briefed constantly. That's standard protocol. And that's all you want to brief, because anything, if you go to Congress, there's going to be leaks. He hasn't declared all-out war. It's so really, we haven't reached the threshold as yet where I believe that congressional approval is necessary, in my opinion.
And now, do you think our support of Israel is something that is warranted? Or, I mean, there are a lot of people that are kind of sick. I'll just be honest with you, a lot of people are sick and tired on both the Republican and Democratic side. This is the issue with Israel. And then as a Christian, the Bible says to pray for Israel. Now, we've helped them build a military system. We've done a lot for Israel. There come a point, though, we have to. And I think this is the problem. I'm not speaking for the president, obviously, but I think this is in the back of his mind. If we can get this issue with Iran resolved to some extent in terms of mitigating any type of, access to nuclear arms, I believe that then Israel would be much safer. The whole world would be safer. Then I think the funding and other support for Israel is going to diminish greatly, because we can't keep. It's like Ukraine. We can't. That's why I'm saying the fixed Tijuana is a drop in the bucket, right? With all the money we spend everywhere else. Right. And that's a serious problem. The Tijuana crisis is serious. That's a serious international crisis. That's number one
anywhere in the country, there's not another a serious environmental crisis more serious, in my opinion, than Tijuana River crisis.
Yeah.
But it's fixable, so we need to put some
Mhm.
emphasis and effort. My opponent has done any of that. Put a lot of band-aids, a lot of talk, no intentional action, intentionality. You don't get leave from the table until we have a plan, a game plan, strategic plan. We have the funding available, and we take action, take steps. This boomed and putting band-aids here for years. It's been going on, as I understand it, for over 50 years now. But that's a shame. That really is a shame. And today we can go to the moon and back in less than a few days, and you can't fix this issue. It may take 5 to 10 years, maybe 5 to 7 years, but it can be done. It will be done. If I'm elected, it'll be done.
Yeah. Now, you had mentioned that, in terms of the economy, that immigration's a big part of that. What are some other things that you think are important to keep the economy, going strong, or like what are things that you want to focus on?
Oh, another you're gonna like. I have a bill I've written, some legislation I've written. It's not a bill yet, but it's a form of legislation. It's called a Main Street Small Business Belle.
Okay.
That help families, help businesses, and obviously it helps the economy. And wait, the bailout is not paid for, which in legislation you propose, you got to have, well, who's going to pay for it? There's always the issue. One issue going to come down the line. There's 5 criteria for legislation, but one of them is how it's going to be paid for. Paid for, guess what? By the banks, airlines, automobile. I think Obama and Bush bailed out the banks, airlines, and automobile industry, except for Ford, I believe. So it's time for them to bail the small businesses out. And this is a grant, no loans, it's a grant.
Okay.
Grant. And we need to upgrade. We need to also upgrade. We need to reform SBA. It's not very practical. The intent, here we go again, good intentions are there, but from a pragmatic standpoint, it's not working.
Yeah.
And it can't.
When you say reform SBA, like how do you, like what are some of the things that
do? Number one, the SBA allows, when someone applies for an SBA loan, SBA allows the banks to set the criteria. So that's the first mistake. I come out of private equity, investment. I know when it comes to banks, their criteria, guess who their number one concern is? The banks. The banks.
Getting their money back?
Right. Wait, with the interest. I mean significant
with interest, yeah.
Wait. But the problem is, though, they may borrow it at 4%, right? Discount rate. They may borrow it at 4% from the Federal Reserve at 4%. They get loaned to SBA at 8 to 12%.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. It's unnecessary. See, Feds, and I'm not big on regulation, but some things require changing. You have to change that. But see, the Feds have to set the guidelines for the banks. Don't let the banks, you work in cooperation with the banks, going to serve as a pass-through entity only, but they will not be involved in the approval process. See, the banks are guaranteed anyway. They get their money either way. So which really was another issue that I'm concerned. That's why I want the banks, and they will. I know lobbyists for CBA, Community Banks Association, and American Banks. I know lobbyists. I used to lobby for them, but I know lobbyists on both sides, both banking industry lobbyists, and they're going to fight it, obviously. But I'm not worried about it. We're not worried about it. I think the president and I think the secretary, the treasurer would get behind this. Other members of Congress. It's the right thing to do. It's the right thing to do. Main Street, small bailout. Main Street, small bailout. Paid for by banks, automobile industry, and airline industry.
Gotcha. Was there anything besides the in addition?
Housing. Yeah. We need additional federal funds for first-time home buyers. That's critical. Second, you've not heard of this. I guarantee you've not heard this first, right here.
Okay.
Matter of fact, I'm not mentioning this on anyone's program. My staff and I were talking. One of the things we're going to do is I would propose putting a cap on the down payment requirement. We need to limit what mortgage companies are requiring for first-time home buyers.
Mm-hmm.
That's another issue. No, you can say, what can say the median home price of 1.1 million. So what 10% of that is what 100,000 most people
Yeah.
say, man, come on. It's not realistic,
Right.
Fernando.
Right.
It's not realistic. Come on. So first time home buyer, we have to have that. Now if you have 3% down payment, so it's more realistic, right?
Right. Absolutely.
It's more realistic. I mean, you got to look at what's realistic. You got to be fair, some degree of fairness. And I know, coming out of the finance sector, that it's all about the profits, but no, it's all about people adding value to make it enriching their lives, making things more affordable for individuals. And third, in addition to those changes, I also would add more funding for housing development.
Mm-hmm.
And support, but not directly, but a pass through the cities.
Yeah.
In terms of grant for the cities, yeah.
Would you be a proponent for? So one of the things I've heard people bring up is, for example, here in San Diego, we have a lot of military,
Yes.
And a lot of the military obviously have to. There's only so much military housing we have, so a lot of them go into the private, housing market, and there's been a lot of talk about putting pressure on the military to provide housing for the soldiers here. That way, that way it doesn't take up so much of the private housing supplies, basically.
That's one of my bills. So in addition, remember the Tier 1 river crisis?
Yeah.
Because the military is funded strictly by the federal government, as so will be this Tier 1 crisis. An extension of that is the housing and upgrade. And I saw some legislation that around from the House right now through my mentor, Tom Cole's appropriation chair recently, where they're proposing new funding for not just veterans, but for military bases in terms of housing and infrastructure, better roads on the bases, and housing for military personnel, mainly San Antonio, Virginia, and San Diego.
Gotcha. Awesome.
And I would second that, and I would really push to get that. Yes.
Awesome.
Military housing is critical, very critical.
And what are your thoughts? There's one of the last questions or topics I want to talk to is energy. Making energy affordable. So, what are your ideas on energy? Whether it's gas and natural gas and oil, or nuclear, solar, wind. Yeah. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, and basically all three. But when this Green Deal should be dead in the water, I don't support that at all. But I know there's some good in it, a little bit anyway. But the primary thing, number one, is the oil reserve. We need to start drilling again off the coast of California. Just drill, really. We need to remove the environmental restrictions off of that the feds and now California. That's the first thing, and that's will help tremendously. Secondly, we have a more coal production, nuclear production, fossil fuels. Although we need to expedite production, just like with the oil crisis right now relates to the Middle East. The U.S. buys very little, if any, oil from Saudi Arabia. from Iran and Saudi Arabia. We really are self-sufficient. But the problem has been, the oil. The drilling and the activity in oil and gas has been restricted through big policies. So when Biden and actually Clinton and Biden, the Democrats have kept the whole area locked down for environmental concerns. Come on, you look at it, there's always going to be environmental issues, but you got to take care of the people first. The environment may be third or fourth, but the people first. Always about the people. The people. We got to. When people can't afford to stay in their homes, but yet you're protecting and preserving the fish in the ocean, that's a shame.
Mm-hmm.
That is a shame. That's a shame. We need to take care of the people, and we start drilling off the coast of California. It could provide more jobs, then provide energy and electricity such. I'm a proponent of solar and wind. I worked on some companies in Houston who are big in those areas. Some companies in Oklahoma with the turbine engines and wind, and I think it's very, very, very popular, and it should be invested in.
Yeah. Okay.
But it starts
Awesome.
with the regulation restricting the oil and gas right now offshore.
Yeah. Well, Jeff, we're coming here to the end of the interview, and it was a pleasure, speaking with you and getting your ideas. One of the things I want to bring or ask you, a couple of things. What would be the last thing that you would say to people why they should vote for you? And then also, how could people reach out to you if they want some more information about your campaign or want to help you out? Where would they go to find that?
Thank you. Well, first of all, here's why you vote for me. If you're satisfied with your life the way it is, you keep voting for my opponent. But if you want to reduce cost of living, you want someone who's going to help, who's going to work with Congress and really know how to work within Congress. But I don't believe in career. My opponent's been in office, I think 13. Term limits is on my radar as well. The other thing I mentioned that's on my. I don't believe anybody should be in office more than long term. So you want changes in the government, but you want more money, discretionary money in your pocket. You want affordability for your teenager, or you want to have you want to be able to live in a home that's have funds to pay for a home, or you want to have and to make sure your kid lives in a safe environment. Public safety is really big with me. Or if you happen to be a legal immigrant here and you're looking for a pathway to go, to get in the system and be treated fairly, you vote for me. But probably the biggest thing is, if you want real sustainable change to Bay, San Diego, that I'm your choice.
Awesome. And how could they look if somebody wants to be part of your campaign or look up more information? How would they do that?
Belle, BelleCongress.com, a website. Okay. Also, I'm on Ballotpedia. I'm all over the internet. I'm not like my friend Deion Sanders. I'm not hard to find. I'm very easy to find. I've been out there for a long time. So the good, bad, and ugly. But on the positive side, you vote for me, I can assure you your life will be different within a year's time. Right, and I know things can move slow in Washington, but guess what? Things can be prioritized too. It can move faster in Washington. It depends on who you're working with. I can work with the president. Now, I support the president. I don't follow. The only person I follow is Jesus Christ. But I support the president, and I have the skill, the knowledge, the insight, and the connection to help make your life much better.
Awesome. Well, Mr. Bell, I really appreciate you taking your time to come on my show. I wish you the best of luck, and look forward to talking to you again another day.
Thank you very much, Fernando. Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Have a great day.
Great show. Yes, sir.